Right, lesson 37. The subject of lesson 37 is actually the subject of lesson 40. Because it is a major exercise that you learn. It is an extensive exercise. If you learn it at lesson 40, you do it only once. And if you don't practice at home, never again. And it's just, this exercise is too significant for that. And I decided to pull it back to lesson 37 so that you practice it a couple of times to become familiar with it. The exercise is called Sambhavi Mudra. It is actually described in chapter 3 or chapter 4, but very vaguely. There are no details on how to do it. First of all, what is mudra? People who know mudra often say mudra is finger movements. We meditate like this, and everybody knows the statue with the hand in front of the chest and the finger, the index finger and the thumb connected. There are many statues in New Age circles with the goddesses and the gods, Shiva, Shakti, also with this mudra. Many people have seen it either on a picture or as a statue. But look, yoga starts with the basics in chapter 1. There are instructions on how to create the ideal circumstances so that you thrive in your yoga practice. That includes dietary advice. It includes also the creation of a space where you can practice without distractions. It tells us that our basic needs have to be met so that we're not distracted. And then asanas are described, and the yamas and the niyamas are described in chapter 1. So that's the foundation. Chapter 2 takes it a notch higher. You have made yourself healthier in chapter 1, if you practice regularly, follow the system. You made yourself healthier, you possess more energy, and that energy apparently is more sattvic than before. So in chapter 2, you go a notch higher, you go a level higher with pranayama. Pranayama, energy control. The very practical purpose of pranayama, if you look at the text, is really to eliminate any possible diseases. Each pranayama is designed for a certain category of diseases. So, at the end of chapter 2, you're supposed to be healthy and full of energy, but also free from diseases. Any possible diseases that you had, existing ailments, chronic diseases maybe, having improved a lot. Then you're ready for chapter 3. You go again a level higher. Chapter 3 is about mudras. Now, if mudras were finger movements, how is that a level higher? If you understand what you did in chapter 1 and chapter 2, which actually, frankly speaking, many yoga practitioners do not understand. They do not see the systematic build-up that is actually very powerful if properly followed. Chapter 3, if you understand chapter 1 and 2, promises to be even deeper, even more powerful. But how is this powerful? How are finger movements more powerful than pranayama? What is the answer to that? They are not. Because mudra is not finger movements. Where do the finger movements come from? Ancient people were not intellectually developed. They were illiterate also. They couldn't grab a book and say, today I'm going to do this and that mudra. How did it work again? Because they can't read. Finger movements are reminders. When you put your hand in front of your heart, you make a vow. You make a vow. The index finger represents solidity, control. Did I say the index finger? The thumb. The thumb represents solidity, represents control. What does the index finger represent? Ego. Control ego, vow. I vow to control my ego. Now it starts making sense. Just a finger movement, you can sit like this for an hour, you're never going to control your ego. All you will end up is a cramp in your finger and your thumb and probably your left arm. The vow, hand in front of your chest, is a vow. That means you do it with heart and soul. It's just not just a thought. It's not just a concept. No, you deeply absorb the vow to control. From now on, I will control my ego. Why? Because ego always gets me in trouble. This is important. So this is symbolical. When you see a statue or a poster with this mudra next time, remember the meaning of it. It looks mysterious, and they make it look mysterious with all kind of decorations and what have you, but it's very practical. It has a very practical, powerful meaning. Remember that next time. How is mudra higher than pranayama? Pranayama is for a large part mental. You control energy by thought. You count, you imagine drawing in energy or letting energy out. Energy follows thought. Based on that principle, we start accelerating and moving in and out energies of choice. As a result of that, we change our condition. We influence our condition. Mudra is also energy control, but it's based on feeling. Now, feeling, we live in a society where feeling is undervalued. People who are very sensitive, emotional, are in fact looked down upon as being emotionally unstable. We look at that as a weakness. It can be a weakness because it makes us unstable. If you're not in control of your feelings and emotions, it can make you unstable. It's destructive. More destructive than thought. And this tells us that feeling is stronger than thought. And that is important. So if you can control feeling and emotion and try to avoid negative, destructive feelings and emotions, and focus on positive feelings and emotions, you have a tool that is more powerful than pranayama. But this is a very difficult story to sell, because already pranayama is a difficult story to sell, because we are going to control something that is not concrete. You can do a triangle pose and look in the mirror and you see concrete action, movement, and you can feel it clearly in your muscles and your joints. And when you're done with the asana, you feel it mentally. You feel the calm, the peace of mind, the sattva. With pranayama, the effect is subtle. And if you're not even a bit sensitive, you may not even notice anything at all. So pranayama is a difficult story to sell. You have to believe. But if you don't believe, you have to practice every day to prove to yourself that yes, it does change my condition. Yes, it does work. It has an impact. Mudra is based on feeling, and feeling is passion. Feeling is compassion. Feeling is doing things with heart and soul. It's much stronger than thought. A thought is dry. A thought is rational. A thought is never sparkling. But a feeling is. Love is a feeling. Hatred is a feeling too. And it is very strong. Love is healing. Hate is destructive. Mudra is based on feeling. More importantly, control of feeling. In Sambhavi Mudra, the first mudra that you learn, you use feeling to manipulate energy. And why is Sambhavi Mudra such an important exercise? And you learn it in the basic course, while the other mudras appear only in the second module of the advanced course. Sambhavi Mudra you learn so early because it directly stimulates energy up through Shushumna Nadi, the third channel. This is a Kundalini exercise. And if you do it with heart and soul, you bring up energy to the higher levels of consciousness that are in fact the major goal of yoga. The major goal of yoga is to open the crown chakra, which directly means opening the heart. That you develop these royal characteristics, as we call them, Raja Yoga, developing, manifesting the royal characteristics in the crown chakra, vision, intuition, wisdom, deep insight into matter, deep understanding. So you have laid the foundation with asana, with pranayama. Now you are going to turbocharge your energies with Sambhavi Mudra. So this is a pure Kundalini exercise, and there is no counting, there is no retention. You have 5 steps here, each of those designed to stimulate the 5 chakras below Ajna chakra, and you go from the bottom up to bring that energy up in large amounts. Of course, in the beginning, it is mental, because it's the first time you do it. Like driving a car. There are things to take care of, because it is new, it is mental. But if you repeat the exercise a couple of times, it becomes intuitive. That is when feeling really starts to do its work. When it's mental, It's kind of exploring. How does this work? What do I need to do? But once you are familiar with the process, you stop thinking and you start using feeling. And that is what the whole exercise is about. Sambhavi Mudra also can be seen in illustrations or statues that show Sambhavi Mudra. Symbolically, I have to emphasize, because many people make the mistake to do Sambhavi Mudra like this. And the text says, if you do that, you will reach enlightenment. It's the same, you know. You sit like this for an hour, nothing's going to happen. You sit like this for an hour, you're definitely not going to reach enlightenment. You get a pain in your eyeballs because you push on it with your fingers, and in the end you will get a cramp in your fingers, in your hands, in your arms, and what have you. It's symbolism to help people remember. People who cannot read, who cannot refer to a text. The ninjas of Japan also have their hand movements. The secret, mysterious hand movements. And they do them behind the hands so that nobody can see what they are doing. I've seen ninjutsu practitioners very proudly doing their finger movements, not understanding what they were doing. The finger movements represent, like the mudra in ninjutsu, in ninja martial arts, the finger movements represent certain values. Beyond thought, you have to feel it. And you do that by repetition. The finger movements represent courage, honor, integrity, all the things that you learn in traditional martial arts to be a better human being. In traditional martial arts, you don't learn to be a killer or a champion. That is basically, just like with yoga, it is to cultivate a civilized human being. So the hand movements in ninjutsu have exactly the same purpose as in yoga with the mudras. They represent certain concepts. There are other mudras. There are categories of mudras. I have come to the conclusion. There are certain mudras that, like pranayama, increase energy. There are, like Sambhavi Mudra, you turbocharge Shakti energy. There is Kechari Mudra later on, where you turbocharge Shiva energy. Today's pranayama, the new pranayama, is in fact a Shiva dominating pranayama. There is a Shiva dominating mudra, Kechari Mudra, where you just dream, in fact, that you are being engulfed by a huge wave of Shiva energy. It is where the concept of divine nectar comes from. Divine nectar, the drink of the gods, is in fact Shiva energy, but in large amounts. Feeding yourself from heaven. The concept is described in the Bible, where Moses takes his people through the desert for 40 years, and when they had nothing to eat, they fed themselves with food from heaven. And when I was a child, I was reading the child Bible with my kindergarten teacher, and the children Bible has illustrations, and you see fish and loaves of bread raining from heaven when this story comes along. But the feeding from heaven is not material food. It's Shiva energy. Maybe you remember the story of Prahlajani, who unfortunately died last year, the yogi who claimed not to have eaten or drank any liquid since he was 11 years old. And he says, I'm feeding myself through a hole in the palate. I'm feeding myself through a hole in the palate. That's Kechali Mudra. Drinking the divine nectar. So you have mudras where you increase Shakti, you have mudras where you increase Shiva in much stronger form than you do in Pranayama. Then there are mudras that are purely about controlling emotion, controlling feeling. You see somewhere in the text, no, that is the text actually about the Shitkari Pranayama, which I sent you. It's just a half page. But you see in the text, if you succeed in relaxing under great strain, you will endure longer than normal. I will repeat. If you succeed in relaxing under great strain, you will endure longer than normal. This is the concept of those mudras. There are the mudras that increase rajas, there are mudras that increase tamas, then you have the mudras where you learn to control your attitude while creating a difficult situation. Those mudras, you put yourself in a difficult position while not allowing your mind to become restless. This is in fact a management technique. Higher management will teach you to stay calm in stressful situations. That's pure yoga. Because difficult situations, stressful situations, unstable situations, it drains large amounts of energy. It's exhausting. So those who can control that, those who can avoid losing large amounts of energy under strain, they will be able to control the situation, solve the situation. While other people drop out because they can't endure. So mudra is about using feeling. So either using feeling to increase either Shiva or Shakti, or using feeling to control. To control emotions. Being aware of your instinctive reaction to a difficult situation, to strain. That can be physical strain, but that can also be, and in most cases it is mental strain, emotional strain. If you're aware of that, you choose an attitude. Instead of going along with the emotion or the feeling of the moment, you choose to stay calm. And that is in fact what you practice in this third category of mudras. So this is the explanation of mudra, so that you never ever are confused about what mudra actually really is. Because there are many yoga teachers, even authorities in yoga, who will still tell you, the mudra, that is hand movement, that is finger movements. It is very powerful, they will tell you. Very mysterious, very powerful, but they cannot tell you how it actually works and what it actually will do for you. Practically, this is how it works. It is actually, and you know, Ajita always used to say, a child can do it. A child can do it. You know what? Children can actually do it better than adults. You know why? Because as adults we have become too rational. We have lost the ability to feel. We have lost the ability to be enthusiastic, full of joy and happiness. But that is really, in terms of energy, that is the most powerful form of energy. So as adults, don't be afraid to go back to being a child again, because it's very powerful. With the difference that you now control it. You must control it for your own protection, for your own good. It does make you vulnerable. Now, Sambhavi Mudra, the thumb on the ears, the index fingers on the eyes, the middle fingers on the nose, and the ring fingers on the upper lip, and the pinkies on the lower lip. It's very interesting, because each of the chakras are related to what? Senses. How many? 5. 5 fingers, 5 chakras, 5 senses. Let's start with the pinky. The meaning of the pinky is artistic tendency, beauty. Which chakra was that? Svadhisthana chakra, the water center, the underlip. The ring fingers you put on your upper lip. Touch. Allegedly, the upper lip is the most sensitive part of the body. I don't think so, but that is the theory behind it. Touch. Is the heart chakra. And the pinkies represent artistic tendency. The ring fingers represent loyalty. If you think of it, when you get married, you put a ring made of precious metal, not of wood, not of steel, precious metal, gold or platinum, on your ring finger. Why? Because it connects with the heart. It instills a sense of loyalty. Not only in the Catholic Church, the old Indian yogis also knew about that connection. It is the reason why your golden ring, wedding ring, is on this finger and not on that one or that one. And why gold? Why a precious metal? Because the reason why precious metals are precious and therefore expensive is because on a subtle level they cause harmony, sattva. They have in fact a healing quality. The middle finger, this is always funny. The middle finger. What does the middle finger represent? The gesture in itself. Ego. Muladhara chakra, the chakra at the bottom of the spine, the nose. The function of Muladhara chakra is smell, remember? Therefore, the nose. The index fingers. I mentioned it already when explaining that mudra where you vow to control ego. When you talk about yourself, you always point with your index finger. So ego. Ego. On the eyes. Which chakra is that? Eyesight. Manipura chakra. Ego. And ego is located in Manipura chakra. And finally, we have the thumbs. The biggest limb on the hand. And they represent solidity. And you close your ears with your thumbs. So, what was hearing? That was Vishuddhi chakra, the throat. So we started with the pink and ended with the thumb, and you see that it mixes up the chakras. But if you go from the bottom to the top, It is the index fingers first for Muladhara chakra. Then the pinkies, artistic tendency, taste for Svadhisthana chakra. Then the index fingers for ego for Manipura chakra. Then the ring fingers for loyalty for the heart. And then the thumb for the throat. Now I did a lot of effort explaining the fingers, but you can find it back in the handout. But actually forget about the fingers. Don't make the mistake that this is about fingers. The fingers are there to remind the illiterate person how this works. We are not illiterate. We can look at the text and see, oh, this is how it works. That is the next step. Okay. Sambhavi Mudra is based on feeling. And in a very systematic way, you walk your way up the ladder from the lowest chakra to the top. Stairways to heaven, literally. So let's skip the fingers, but the emotion is very important here. Muladhara chakra, Muladhara, pride. Pride. That is where this gesture comes from. It is an international, universal gesture. Where does that come from? The old yogis thinks it comes from that finger just representing pride. It is instinctive. Now, how do you trigger the energy in Muladhara chakra? With pride. Pride should not be a thought. I hope that is clear now. Like a child, you have to immerse yourself in the feeling of pride. The emotion of pride. That is when it really starts to stir in your Muladhara chakra. So, everybody has something to be proud of. Some achievement in life. Like obtaining a diploma for which you worked very hard. Or getting a position in your career, in your job, that you have been wanting for so long and working so hard for. Or some victory in some kind of sports or game or anything. Your family can be a source of pride, the way that you raise your family and how they turn out to be as wonderful human beings, the way that you teach when you are a teacher and you teach children or older students, how you just know that they are becoming better human beings because the way you teach them. There are many things that you can derive a sense of pride from. Then you have to really allow yourself to feel that pride. Pride is not a negative thing, it's not something to be ashamed of. Immerse yourself in that sense of pride, allow yourself. Why do we sometimes think that it's inappropriate? Because it can indeed lead to arrogance. But you use it in a measured way and you use it as a tool. And of course you try to avoid becoming arrogant, that you become thinking that you're superior to others. That is, of course, not the case and totally not constructive for this process. Immerse yourself in a sense of pride. How long? For about a minute or two. It is very possible in the beginning that you do not feel a particular stimulation of energy, like with pranayama. So you do your best, you understand the concept, you do your best, but after a minute or two you have to move on. Why? There are 5 steps and there is limited time. And we start with the pranayama, which takes up 12 to 15 minutes, 12 to 16 minutes. After the pranayama, you have the mudra. That should take up between 10 and 15 minutes. And then you have a little time left for concentration on nada, which is important. You have to finish with the concentration meditation, because that is where the energy settles down and finds its effect. So after a minute or two, immersing yourself in that feeling, even if you haven't particularly felt a sensation, you must believe that what you are doing is working and move on to the next concept, Svadhisthana. Beauty. A sense of beauty, artistic tendency. Forget about the fingers. I always use the image of a dahlia. A dahlia is a flower. It is now, since last year, it's my wallpaper. You know why? Because I told this story in that class, and the last class, a student, the girl that is sometimes here, Jocelyn, she found a dahlia in exactly the color that I use for my Sambhavi Mudra. She found it in Homik in some special flower shop, and she brought it to class as a present for the last class. Dahlia. A dahlia is like a lotus. It has many petals, and the reason why I choose that flower is because in my 20s, I had a house with a veranda on the sun side, and I put dahlias in a container on the fence of the veranda of a very deep, we call it Bordeaux red. Bordeaux is wine red. It is this color actually. It is the reason why I chose this color for the meditation cushions. A yogi does never do anything without a purpose or a reason. There is no coincidence. There's no coincidence why these are this color. It's because it's the color of the dahlia that really filled me with a sense of beauty. I was just one day on the veranda watering them, and I looked and I saw the velvety texture of these petals. And I saw the different shades of this wine red throughout the flower. And the shape is just such a gorgeous flower. When the camera is off, I will show you the wallpaper. The photo that I made of that dahlia. Sense of beauty. Something that really touches you. It can be a painting. It can be a flower. Nature is full of beauty if you only know where to look. It can be a person that instills a sense of beauty. There are incredibly beautiful people in the world. Sometimes you're lucky to come across a sense of beauty, anything. For me, the flower works. It can be also a bunch of flowers. You know, the Netherlands is a country of flowers. In the Netherlands, you go to a shopping center, there's one supermarket, there's one department store, there's one butcher, there's one cheese shop, there's one fashion clothes shop, and there are 4 flower stalls spread out over the shopping center. And most people have a vase with flowers on the chimney, or on the table, or somewhere on the cabinet. Most people have a bunch of flowers. And when you visit people, either for a vacation, for a birthday, or just to have dinner with each other. Sometimes you invite somebody for dinner, or you are invited for dinner. You always pass by the flower shop, the flower stall, and you bring a bunch of flowers and maybe a bottle of wine or some chocolate. But also, when you have a conflict with somebody. You've done something stupid, somebody is angry at you. How do you solve the problem? By talking. But before you talk, you pass by the flower stall, you bring a nice bunch of flowers, which you keep behind your back, and you ring the bell. Then the door opens, and the face is very dark and angry, and you say, "Ta-da! Can we talk, please? I'm so sorry about what happened." But the flowers really... It's the flowers that do the trick. The person that was angry and actually doesn't want to see you and even talk with you, the moment that you pull the bunch of flowers from behind your back, they just can't stay angry anymore. So sense of beauty. Also, you see that countries that develop, become relatively wealthy, they start the government invests a lot of money in art. There are museums that are heavily subsidized, so either they are free for visitors or they are cheap to be visited. Why do governments invest so much money in beauty, in art? Because it cultivates civilized people. That is why cultural activities in especially countries that are relatively established, European countries, South Korea these days too, America, countries that have reached a certain level of wealth and stability, they start investing heavily in cultural activities of all kinds, including lots of art. Korea these days also has subsidized artists, people who do not work. They get paid by the government to create art. And that is something that existed in the Netherlands for so many years already. So art has unexpectedly a huge influence on our condition, how we feel. Beauty, sense of beauty. I choose my flower, my dahlia. Pick whatever you like that works for you. Manipura chakra, ego, easy. You walk through the street and suddenly somebody from behind shouts your name. A friend, somebody, sees you passing by, opens the window. "Hey June! June!" Oh, yeah, you feel that? Immediately. This is the one that you cannot deny. You may not feel much in Muladhara, you may not feel much in Swadhisthana, but Muladhara chakra, everybody feels. If you are a teacher, or you have children yourself as a parent, what do you do when your children are disobedient, distracted, naughty, misbehaving? What do? To get their attention, you shout their names loudly, and their spine straightens up, and me, you calling me? Yeah, really, you calling me? That is ego. I'm exaggerating enormously, of course, but I think you recognize this. When you are somewhere in a restaurant, a bar, or just in the street or in a shop, and somebody suddenly calls your name, everybody likes that. Ego. So Manipura chakra is the easiest of all to stimulate, and also the most. This is the one that for us is very important to control. There are several mudras actually designed to control Manipura chakra. Then we have Anahata, also not difficult. More subtle than Manipura, so maybe not immediately you feel sensation in the heart chakra, but loyalty. Loyalty. You vow loyalty when you get married in the ceremony, for better and for worse. In health and disease, or whatever words they use, you vow loyalty through thick and thin. For loyalty, I do not usually choose a person, because you never know what happens. You may be in love with somebody and feel loyalty to that person, but there can be conflicts, small or big, and things can change easily. However, if you're really invested in a person and you're really completely convinced you're going to stay with that person forever, it's a very good subject or object, that person, to use to instill a sense of loyalty. For me, because I have been on this path since I discovered yoga at the age of 20, actually some years before already, I started unknowingly be drawn towards this path. My loyalty lies with my path, with my destiny, with my firm belief that the universe is helping me, guiding me, and I'm loyal to that path. I will never stray away from it, even when I'm very desperate and almost giving up on life. I always end up with loyalty. For me, that works. Or if I don't feel like on a particular day, my dogs get my loyalty. Dogs, they are smart, or can be, not all. Some are obnoxious and dumb. But my dogs are smart, but they need me. And the moment that I adopted them, it is my vow that I will take care of them no matter what, until they die. That is a commitment for the next 15 years. Loyalty. And you get an enormous amount in return. Love and loyalty from them. That works very well for me too. Loyalty to your child, if you have a child, because your child, just like dogs, children need you. Dogs will need you forever until they die. Children will need you until they are ready to fly out. So there's loyalty there too, definitely. Or loyalty, you could use the image of your mom. If you're not in an abusive relationship with your mom, moms are capable of unconditional love. So if the relationship is good, you could use that feeling of your mom always being there for you, through thick and thin. Even more than she's more loyal to her children than she would be to her husband. Often, not always, of course. There are always exceptions. Loyalty, sense of loyalty. And the last one, Vishuddhi. Vishuddhi, by the way, causes some confusion because sometimes Vishuddhi is also called Vishuddha. Not important. Solidity. Solidity is a sense of determination. For me, loyalty and solidity really flow over in one another. Solidity for me means to stay on this path to which I am loyal. Even when it gets difficult, or especially when it gets difficult, you put your foot down and you say, I'm not going to give up. Nobody's going to deter me. Nobody can keep me from pursuing what I so long ago chose to do. Solidity. Yogis have a natural tendency to be stubborn, to be strong-willed. That is solidity. So it's something that shouldn't come to you in a difficult way. It should come to us easily. If you know how it works, be determined. Feel determination. Stubbornness. Stubborn. The word stubborn sounds a little bit negative, but it's a good thing if you know how far you can go. Because stubbornness can become destructive, self-destructive, or destructive to the people around you. So you must, of course, know how far you can go. Determination. Strong-willedness. It's a nicer word for stubbornness, but it means in fact the same. That's it. And this exercise is called Sambhavi Mudra. I don't know exactly what Bhavi means, but Sam means concentrated. Like with Samadhi. Samadhi means concentrated consciousness. Like a laser beam. Now, Bhavi, I don't know exactly what that means. It's not so.
Bhava means to exist.
It's what?
Means to exist. Existence.
Okay. So concentrated existence.
Concentrated being.
I have to contemplate that a little bit. It must have a profound meaning. Okay? Each of the concepts you spend about 2 minutes and move on. You will see if you do this with heart and soul, meaning you actually, like a child, you just immerse yourself in that feeling, it really leads to energy rising up, and your meditation after that will show that it works. Your meditation will be much more focused as a result. Questions about Sambhavi Mudra?
How about using love to stimulate another chakra?
Love for the heart chakra?
Yes. You mentioned loyalty, but how about love?
It's very closely related. If you really love someone, then naturally comes the sense of loyalty. So, yeah, you can use love. But if you use pure love, just love, then it becomes ananda. Sananda, Nirananda Samadhi. So, you can use love as a trigger, but then transition into loyalty towards that love. It's kind of an eternal promise to yourself, not to the other. In Ananda Samadhi, it is towards the other. But here it is to yourself, for the purpose of the exercise.
The reason I ask is love is more direct, simple for me to practice, to use. But loyalty sometimes leads to me some mental situation.
Yeah.
That's why
But you have done the advanced course, learned Samadhi, and you have done the master course with Ajita online. So for you that is a very natural thing to do. But most students here, they have no notion of those concepts yet, and this could become a distraction. For you, with everything that you know and have experienced, you take shortcuts. In the end, in yoga, you forget everything that you did and you stick with the essence. In the end, yoga, the essence of yoga is very simple, but to get there, you have to walk these stairs, step by step. So, yeah, love works. Very powerful tool. But for the purpose of Sambhavi Mudra, we stick to loyalty. Okay, let's have a short break.